This is Gary Atensa with CNTV, and today we're in Colorado. I'm here with the Proffit Coach. Since 2019, she has been helping you shift from feeling stressed to feeling joyful, not only loving what you do, but how you do it. I'm joined with Alison Proffit, who is the coach, business strategist, joyful culture catalyst. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm going
to start off a little bit about yourself. You were formerly educated in human capital management and human resources, really at multiple universities. You soon became a certified professional coach through IPEC's comprehensive program. Past experiences in HR management and metrics, as well as a business partner and founder of Amazing Journey Coaching, has led you to serving as a board director and now the Chief Inspiration Officer and founder of Proffit Coach. Share with me a little bit how this journey led you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I have been a passionate person related to helping people step into their purpose. And through the work I've done over my career of more than 20 years in human resources, I had lots of opportunities to help leaders become stronger in what it was that they were doing. And in the world of HR, there's a lot of work that doesn't involve the people, right? A lot of paperwork and administrative things and compliance things. And I just started to notice that that wasn't the stuff that brought me the joy. And that's really where I realized I wanted to move into the coaching world, and that's where my journey with becoming a certified coach with IPEC really came into being. And I came across them when I literally did a Google search and looked up certified coaching programs because I wanted to do executive and corporate coaching work, and I thought they'll probably need a piece of paper, even though I already have a lot of education. And IPEC was the first one that popped up. I'd never researched coach schools before, and their whole model is on this theory called energy leadership. And there's an assessment tool associated with it, and I thought, wow, HR people love assessment tools, so I'd been certified in a lot of those. And going into that educational program, I was just trying to get a piece of paper and learn some other coaching skills because I'd been coaching throughout my HR career, and I ended up having a transformational life experience. Okay. I realized that I was a different person in every area of my life. Who I was at work was different than who I was in my marriage, was different than who I was with my family and my friends. And I realized that I'm probably not the only person walking around with these experiences, not really knowing who I truly was. And in the corporate world, as I started to use this model, even before I was certified, just bringing it into conversation and where are we having victim type thoughts and really holding ourselves back as opposed to seeing the opportunity in situations. It was just so profound. And then I ended up really kind of in the world of Proffit Coach after trying to start my business multiple times. I actually, before I started Proffit Coach, in January 2017, I lost my HR job. I was let go unexpectedly. And between then and October 2019, when I started Proffit Coach, I'd actually moved 9 times. The first one was a move across the country to California. I'd never been more than 50 miles from where I was born. So I moved 9 times. I lost 4 jobs. I'd never had any career issues before, but I really kind of felt like it was like God, the universe, source, whatever your belief is, I felt like I just kind of kept being put on a different path. I tried to go a certain path. I tried to go back into the corporate world, and I felt like the world was like, no, stop trying to do that. I tried to start my business 4 times unsuccessfully. I changed careers twice, so I thought, well, maybe not HR, maybe other things. I actually helped open a restaurant property, a hotel property up in Fort Collins. And that work isn't for me. It's very hard to work in the food and beverage industry. And then I ended up in a sales job at Constant Contact, and I learned all about email marketing and sales. Wow. And those were the things that were actually missing for me when I was trying to do my business. And I realized that I actually loved sales, which was so strange to me because Renee, who's the person that introduced me to you, she actually is the person that introduced me to that position. And so I didn't know Renee, and she turned into this beautiful person in my life and helped me get a job when I was really down and out and losing my relationship with my husband, and I didn't have any money, I didn't know anybody, I didn't have a car, and I just was like, what is going on in my life? How did I get here? And it's really been an interesting journey. When I left Constant Contact, that's really when I realized that I had a knack for talking to business owners. 20 years, 15 at that point, about like 15 years in HR, you get a lot of business acumen,
Sure.
and you know a lot about how businesses work. And I decided I wanted to move into that space of really helping business owners, people that wanted to follow their passion. Because at this point I was burnt out on the corporate world. I didn't care about helping corporate.
Yeah. I mean, not only was your experience a great fit, but your name was a great fit.
Right,
And
yes.
you've been there, you've done it, you understand these folks that are moving from corporate into the business world.
Yeah.
I mean, I explain to business owners all the time that making money here and there is really not what it's about. Unless you're making a profit, you really just have a hobby. By having a strategy in place, is achieving a profit definitely come a lot easier, would you say?
I do think that like having strategy is important, but I think even more important is having clarity around like what is your purpose, clarity around who are you serving, clarity around what you're offering. And when those things are aligned, I actually think that like the core undercurrent of all of that is joy. So if you kind of see anything on my social medias or my website, my tagline is that joy is the best business strategy. And I stumbled on that myself because I kept trying to do things that I was not good at.
Right.
And I didn't like. And I was like, I'm not going to do a good job at the things I don't like. Sure, like, yes, I have to do my bookkeeping. I don't love my bookkeeping, but, the truth is that, like, strategy combined with joy that's where I think, like, profits can really become important.
Really asking those hard questions, like you say, that lead you down the path you should be going. Webster's definition of profit is a financial gain, the difference between the amount earned and the amount spent in operating or producing something. Can stress in operating a company be costly? And has your experience in human capital kind of shown that to be the case?
Yes, very much so. And I think that it's a very personal story I'll bring into this because I think that one of my superpowers is my vulnerability. And I think as business owners, when we can be vulnerable and share a little bit about ourselves, there is power in that because I actually think another one of my little taglines is that connection is a currency. And so, like, if we have a connection here and you know what I do, you're going to know me. You're going to maybe mention me to other people and vice versa. And when we are stressed, it does really impact our ability to show up for ourselves, for the people around us in our business. In fact, I even had some personal challenges in 2022 and took a detour from my business and had some pretty major traumatic experiences, and I couldn't show up for my business. Wow. And I had to make a really hard decision of what do I do? Do I keep fumbling and trying to like heal this massive thing that happened in my life, or do I take a step back? Because taking a step back is me maybe even modeling for my clients that it's okay to give yourself a rest because healing is important. And if you're in that place of ignoring what you need to be healing, you're not going to show up in your full purpose. And so I think that I'm, in this place where I'm leaving the job that I decided to take for a year to focus on my healing and moving back into my business. And the response from the people that know me and love me has been so phenomenal. And I'm just really excited to show up because the last year I've actually reconnected with the HR part of me, is working in an HR position. And so now my passion is even a little bit more expanded in helping companies that are not just solo entrepreneurs, because it's been most of what my focus is, but then moving into that space where they are a smaller, medium-sized business, and I can do work with those leadership teams and with the culture and things of that nature.
I mean, all those chapters are all part of your story. I found the best coaches out there are the ones that have gone up and down through life, and they know how to come back through it and help others do the same. You help small businesses approach their sales and pricing strategies from the heart instead of just the head. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, so I have this approach that I call soulful success. And when you, again, kind of going back to the connection as a currency, I think that when we feel really good about what we're doing and when we feel good about how we're doing it, the money can kind of be this afterthought. It becomes not the thing that you worry so much about. Of course, money is an important factor, and people that don't charge properly, usually there's some money mindset and things that they need to work through and heal for themselves. And I've done tons of that work myself. Because when you are a coach, you do have to do that work. If you're expecting to have transformational results with your clients, you need to be doing that work on yourself constantly and revisiting it always. So the kind of core of the Soulful Success approach in my mind is the 5 C's to soulful success. It's have clarity, like I talked about before.
Yeah.
It allows you to then speak more confidently. So confidence is the second C. And then when those things aren't taking the space in your mind, then connection happens. So that's the third C, is connection. And then the fourth C is about courage. So, sharing your story is courageous. When you're in a sales conversation, which again, I used to hate sales. I didn't understand it, and then I learned about it. And so I feel very, I feel very skilled in order to be able to help people transition from hating and being afraid of sales to actually loving it. But it takes courage to ask for the sale and then to push through understanding somebody's objections and seeing where people aren't saying yes to themselves. Because, often we'll find all kinds of reasons to show up for other people, but not for ourselves or our own businesses. And then the fifth C is cash. Because like you said earlier, if you aren't making a profit, it's just an expensive hobby. And so cash is an important thing, and pricing yourself properly is important. And staying at your own lane, staying in your own paper are really critical pieces with the 5 C's to soulful success.
Speaking of sales, let's face it, selling can be stressful. To confidently sell through the art of connection, how is customized scripting and even role-playing used by you to kind of reduce that stress?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. People that want help with role-playing and scripting, I used to actually have a program that I did a lot of that kind of work. And then I realized that work was less joyful for me because people were looking for a quick answer as opposed to doing the deeper work of why they didn't feel comfortable saying the things. But I do think that when you have some kind of understanding of what a structure of a sales conversation should be, then you can move into learning the art of it, of what it sounds like for you.
Excellent.
So I used to be very structured in how I would help people with their scripting, and then I moved more into what would it sound like if you said that part, and then maybe recording it and playing it back and asking them, what did that feel like to you? What did it sound like to you? And when I worked at Constant Contact, they recorded every single call that we were on, and then if there was a call that didn't go well, the manager would pull us in lovingly, of course. I loved working there. I'm still a partner for them, so if anybody wants email marketing support, that's actually how Profit Coach started. I wanted to do email marketing strategy consulting and help people with that, because it's literally what the sales job at Constant Contact was about, was kind of helping people paint that picture and then selling them on the tools. But, when we would have a sales conversation that went awry, the manager would play it back for us and say what part of the sales conversation was missing, because sales is one of the oldest professions out there, and so it's not all that different than it was hundreds of thousands of years ago, right? A merchant on the street is going to sell very similarly. They're going to build a relationship and a connection and see what you need, and it's an exchange of services for needs or products for needs, and it's very similar, but people don't understand the structure of it. So there's a structure and science to it, and then there's an art to it.
When it comes to sales, a lack of knowledge of sales, can be deadly in maintaining a business. You yourself, like you said, you attempted it 4 times before you actually learned that knowledge and realized how important it was. Consistent sales are critical, and is that what your strategies help produce, those consistent sales, because you're doing the same thing all the time and you have a system set up for that?
Yeah, so yes and no. So HR background, right?
Yeah.
We live in the gray. So so I think yes, the strategy and having goals is very, very important. But if we get sucked under the pressure of that, we lose the joy, right?
Absolutely.
And then that becomes stressful. And when you're in stress, you're going to not be able to show up for yourself or for your business or for your clients or for your family, right? I mean, we are whole beings. That's really always been my philosophy in HR, is that people don't leave parts of themselves at the time clock. So you'll see oftentimes business owners will be so hyper-focused on like, these are my sales goals, these are my revenue numbers. And yes, while those things are important, they might forget that they've actually been doing a lot of seed planting. They've been building a lot of connections and relationships, and sales doesn't always, it's not always a, I'm going to sell in this first conversation. It's about building a relationship, and I love to encourage people to look at their own behavior as a consumer.
The name obviously is unique for this type of industry. Explain to me how you kind of incorporate what you do in that way.
Yeah, so Proffit is actually my last name. I was born with it. And so it's profit, like making money, but it's actually spelled with 2 F's. I like to joke that 2 F's because more is better in profit. And when I was coming up with the name for Profit Coach, I very much was like trying to come up with something catchy. And a friend of mine was like, why don't you just use your last name? It's a perfect name. And I was like, oh, people will spell it wrong. And he was like, I think that like you should just go with it. And like, you know, you'll build your business to a place where people will figure out who you are and they'll find you. And the Soulful Entrepreneur like Summit and like the Soulful Entrepreneurship has been a thing that's been tied with kind of like my last name and kind of following that through me in my entrepreneurial journey over the last couple of years. So
That was great advice, I think. I'm glad you stuck with that, and 2 F's is better than 1. I mean, honestly, sales is like oxygen for a company. Without it, your business is going to die. So the strategies are approached from the heart, but is step number 1 really the mindset? And is that really the launching pad for all the rest that you provide?
yes, definitely. It's a lot of the mindset. All of my engagements with my coaching clients, I always start with the Energy Leadership Index Assessment, which is the tool I'm certified in. As an energy leadership coach through IPEC, which is an ICF credentialed organization. People that hire coaches, sometimes they ask about that stuff, but I always start with that because it really allows that to be a mirror for the person, right? It's not me saying like, I think you're doing this. It's like, let's do this assessment. Let's walk through the debrief and see what's showing up. And it's very, very interesting. A lot of times people will come to me for help with their sales and marketing, and then we will do that assessment, and they will actually uncover that there's a whole bunch of other stuff that they didn't realize was there that they decide they then want to focus on. I often call myself a holistic business coach and consultant because people come to me for what they think they need.
What they think.
And then they end up getting what they actually like, or they come to me, for what they think they want, but then they end up walking away with what they truly need. And that is a lot of that like mindset work. It's getting the clarity on like, who am I? Like, what are your values? What's important to you? Why are you doing this, right? I mean, I think sometimes people will say like, well, I value family. And it's like, well, that's great, but there's something underneath that. Is it love? Is it, you know, there's often something else, because family is an external thing you don't have control over, whereas like love or like support or connection, like those are the values underneath when people say that. So helping them get real clear on it, because when you're clear on it, you can show up confidently and people are going to see that.
Oh, definitely so. I mean, after you gained sales knowledge, no longer was it just easier, but it actually became fun for you. Were you excited to share that knowledge with others, knowing, like you, probably there was a lot of people just like you?
Yes, absolutely. And I think when I got to the place that people understood that they already probably knew how to have a sales conversation, because you're doing that throughout all areas of your life. It's just not called sales.
No.
And the idea of sharing the journey that I've been on, sharing that I've failed 4 times before I found success, that I didn't give up. Like, there is such a full like knowingness in my heart and soul that the work that I'm doing through Profit Coach, because it's, I mean, yes, we're talking a lot about sales, but what I really want to convey is that it's actually not about sales at all. That's the thing that gets people in the door, because it's the thing they think they need. And they recognize that there's so much more that they're actually looking for and what they're looking to accomplish through their business. They don't want to sit and look at the number at the bottom of the spreadsheet. Most of the people that come to me, they want connection. They want to do what they love. They want to love how they do it. I tell people, like, if you hate social media, You're never on social media? Is your ideal client on social media? Do they love it? Then why are you spending all this time worrying about your social media sales strategy? Why are you doing that? And then digging into that, it's like, oh, well, I think I need to do that because of all of these other external things, and they're not keeping their eyes on their own paper, and they're comparing their journey to everybody else's.
Interesting. I teach my kids all the time. Everything we do is sales in life, really. I mean, the best sales job I ever did was talking to my wife and actually joining me and deciding trying to team up.
That's right.
Honestly, most of the people that I know in their own business, they love what they do, but when it comes to pricing and charging for what they do, they don't have a clue. Many times they undervalue themselves. Is this what you have found, and is this another place you can help them?
Yes. It's actually the biggest part of the work that I love doing right now. I've been finding a lot of people, and I'm not sure if COVID had something to do with it, or people found themselves in very different situations with their jobs where it looked different than it did before, and it lost the connection and it lost the meaning, right? They were working from home and they couldn't be around people, and so I think that there is something about worth that has become very, very front and center for a lot of people, in particular. But I think with the I totally lost my train of thought with regards to the pricing piece of it.
Yeah.
The thing that I love to do with pricing is I actually spent a bunch of money on a money coach to do the work for myself, and it was profoundly powerful, and I'm still doing that work. I was raised in a middle class family that my dad got laid off a whole bunch of times, and they burnt through his 401k, and now they're older and living next door to my brother, and they're having their financial situation isn't what they wanted it to be. And so you carry that with you, right? You see things in your upbringing, and you carry your family's money story with you unless you sit and do that work. And that whole process of detaching your emotions from money, and looking at money and pricing as this thing, money is energy. It's actually everywhere.
Sure.
And we can make it, right? You can sell a bunch of your stuff, or, right, there's jobs that you just have to say, do I want to do that work? Do I not want to do that work? And I've been through that in my own life, in my various journeys that I've been on. But people often undervalue what they do. Yeah. And so when you put them in the shoes of a consumer, which is usually where I start, is I say, okay, so let's say you have a hairdresser that you love, a hairdresser that you go to, and you've gone to them for 10 years, and they decide to raise their price by $50. Are you going to immediately be like, I'm leaving, right? Or are you going to try to figure out how to make it work? Because that person is almost like a therapist to you, right? You go to them often. And so when we are thinking about things that we want to spend our money on, and service providers that want to increase their prices, and we love their products and services, it's easy to look at it for other people. But when we look at our own prices, it becomes this whole weird emotional bugaboo, right? And so
it's very hard. It's an emotional topic because of money, and that's always what it is. I mean, you teach people the proper mindset, give them to shift the mindset. You also help them set their price. You help them market themselves out there, which is a whole other topic as far as just understanding that you need to be out there to introduce yourself. Are all these steps exciting for you, knowing that the end goal really is to keep them in business so they can continue serving others?
Yes, actually, I have an acronym for the word JOB, which is relevant for entrepreneurs in particular. But it also applies in the corporate world. But for entrepreneurs, I think a job is a joy optimization blocker. And so remember, our tagline at Profit Coach is that joy is the best business strategy. So you probably, if you are not making a profit in your business, you're probably going to need to go get a job, which is probably not going to be joyful for you. And that job is going to probably block your joy, hence a JOB, joy optimization blocker. Now, in a certain circumstance, a job could be a joy optimization builder if you're choosing it, right? I chose to go back into a corporate job for a period of healing this past year.
Wow, that's an interesting way to look at that. I mean, your mission is to help others go beyond just loving what they do, but really loving how they do it. Alison, with a background in human relations, you understood people.
Yeah.
You then learned how to sell people. Ultimately, you now share what you have learned by creating a soulful strategy for others. Is this rewarding work for you now that you've really gained clarity on what it is you provide?
Yeah, absolutely. I had an opportunity a couple weeks ago to speak at a women's business conference in North Carolina, and it was really the first event to re-enter into this relaunch of Profit Coach. And it was so reassuring that this is the work I'm supposed to do. And granted, I wasn't doing coaching work, it was really speaking and teaching, and there was transformation that was happening in that room. And not everybody will become a client, but it doesn't really matter, right? Like, I'm not tied to those expectations, and I think that the rewarding part of it is just knowing that all of the things that I've experienced in my lifetime and
continue to,
I can find purpose in those. It doesn't mean that they were great experiences, right? But what's the meaning that I can make of them, and what can I do to touch other people and show them, like, hey, like, maybe you are also a survivor of sexual violence. Like, if I could walk through that journey, you can too. And it doesn't mean it's easy, but it's not meant to be done alone. And I think that that's the core of being a soulful entrepreneur. I think that's the core of, like, humanity, is really just being open and connecting and sharing and being in our purpose and helping to support other people in their purpose, and not saying, like, my way is the right way. Like, there's lots of ways to do business. My way is just one way. And I can, like, feel myself lighting up when I talk about it.
That is cool.
And I think that that's when we know we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. These are my gifts, and I feel like my role in my business is to show other people what their gifts are and help them find the way to bringing them into the world and making money from it.
It's an amazing story, and you're also creating amazing stories with people that you work with. Exciting to share that with my viewers. Let's take a look at the bottom of the screen right there. What you're going to see is her website. On the website, see the steps she will take you through to really tap into your fullest potential. You can set up a free soulful strategy call today. You can even get an energy assessment right there on the website. I mean, we can't all have profit in our name like Alison, but we can have consistent profit in our company and truly enjoy the process. Once again, that is Profit Coach, because joy is the best business strategy. This is Gary Atensu with CNTV. And if you don't know, now you know.